For my project, I chose the association between military service and exposure to the risk of suicide. I was in the Navy for 6 years as a master at arms. We dealt personally with all the suicide and deaths that happened on base. This topic is pretty close to heart. We'll start by taking a look at some of the mitigating factors associated with suicide. First, we're going to talk about PTSD. Service members of the past and present account for 22 million, and of those 22 million, 30% have experienced some form of PTSD during their time in the service. Another thing we have is the neurological traumas, such as traumatic brain injuries, which are an unfortunate byproduct of joining the military. And traumatic brain injuries, or TBIs, might lead to service members recognizing the signs and getting help they need before it's too late. Being exposed to the military often leads to disabilities afterwards, with 70% of all veterans have service-connected disabilities. A weapons instructor, which is what I was exposed to constant levels of noise, way higher than the recommended decibel levels, and also wearing 60 pounds of gear and holding a 25-pound M240 day in and day out can definitely lead to issues down the road. As a veteran, I know it's difficult to integrate veterans back into society once their time is up. Going to a large university where most of the students are about a decade younger can create a rift in social reintegration that could lead to feelings of isolation and even depression. Changing lifestyle so drastically can make it difficult for the veteran to relate to those around them, which is another mitigating factor. And in the culture, military is known for its tough guy culture. That stigma has led men and women to bottling up their depressions and mental issues because they don't want to be viewed as weak. Military is full of some of the greatest leaders and patriots in the entire world, but are they equipped at dealing with mental health of their soldiers and sailors and airmen? On the flip side of good leaders, there's also toxic leadership. I personally worked under someone who was toxic, so I know firsthand that they have the ability to really make your life miserable if they want. And since it's the military, it's very hard to speak up. Just follow orders and that's it. Responsibility. With suicide so high in the military, you'd think that there would be someone to blame other than the person, but for some reason we only view suicide as an individual decision, and most people don't commit suicide for no reason, but no one is held accountable once they do. Although the strict rules might be to blame for suicide in the military, it's also bullying or other mitigating factors such as that we don't really look at to see the actual cause of the suicide. Training, did a lot of training when I was in the service. It was integral in maintaining qualifications and made sure we were as well equipped as possible in order to handle anything. But when it came to suicide training, it was just a PowerPoint that no one was interested in. And it always happened during our off time where we had to get into uniform, go onto base, sit through a presentation about how we shouldn't kill ourselves, and then go back home. I don't think that was a very effective way to train people on how not to commit suicide. Mental health evaluations. Having a mandatory mental health checkup could help catch those who are contemplating suicide and give them help they need before it's too late, but you just don't see too many mental health evaluations in the Navy. Workplace difficulties. So enlisted military has been ranked from CareerCast as the #1 most stressful job in the United States. And that's because there aren't many jobs in the world that have harsher working conditions. Self-care. Being a part of an organization that is bigger than the sum of its parts is a rare honor, but it requires sacrifice. That being said, service members often put their country first and neglect their own self-care. Too much neglect on yourself may lead to negative thoughts and emotions, which could have ties to suicidal tendencies. There are a few programs in place that do help with suicide, and one of those is the Veteran Crisis Line, which is a 24-hour hotline to where anyone who is contemplating suicide can be connected to a live representative. Just have somebody to talk to. That might not save every life, but it's nice knowing that there is somebody to talk to if you are feeling or contemplating suicide. One program that could help veterans from committing suicide is called Decruit program, which uses theater as a means of coping with PTSD and other issues for veterans. May not be for everyone, but the testimonies out there show that it has helped military veterans adjust back to civilian life, and one life saved is better than none. 20 veterans every single day out there committing suicide. So it's clear that more must be done. And every year seems to be a new record for the amount of suicides in the military. And until that number is lower, I don't think the job is done.